Welcome to Waves of Wisdom. In this episode, I have somebody I've known for quite some time, a friend of us, all the way from Sweden, who lives in Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and rest of Asia, I would say. Nick Jonsson is a TEDx speaker and the author of bestselling book, Executive Loneliness. He is a master coach and who has delivered keynotes across many countries and coached hundreds of executives around the world. He runs a network, the largest executive network in Southeast Asia, EGN, and his story is actually not shaped by his designations or the work he does, but actually the experiences he had here in the beautiful Maldives. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's great to be back in Maldives.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to have a chat with you, and your story is so inspirational, I would say. When I heard it first time, I think it was in the Mental Health Awareness Day last year. And from that time, I really wanted to talk to you, and here we are in my podcast. So, Nick, can you start with how actually your journey transformed into what you are doing today?
Yes, it'd be my pleasure to do so. And very briefly, I was born in Sweden, educated in Australia, and I lived and worked the last 21 years in Southeast Asia. Out of those 20 years in Asia, it was about 10 years working my way up the corporate ladder, working my way up from account executive, account manager, account director, general manager, managing director in the big firms. So I done that one. I done the rat race. I done the elbowing part up the corporate ladder. But these days, my life has changed. I'm now running my own business, as you introduced it before, and I made big changes in my life.
Wonderful. And in the introduction, I couldn't tell you are also a triathlon athlete, and who is ranked as top 2% in the world, I heard, right?
Yes, in the sport of Ironman, the triathlon sport, the swimming, cycling, and running. So we swim 3.8 kilometer in the ocean, then we cycle 180 kilometer, and then we run a full marathon all in one go in one day. So
When did you start this?
well, I was interested in sport all my life, but sometimes being in the corporate world, the bosses got the better of me with targets and motivating me to work really hard. And I forgot about sport, but I've always fallen back to it when I had a chance. And as I had a crash, as you mentioned, I had a mental health and burnout and big challenges in my life around 2015 to 18 when I was going through a very difficult time. And at that time, I didn't exercise much. But when I came back in 2018, I wanted to live as healthy as I could. And then exercise is these days a big part of me every day.
Wonderful. And I know whenever you are in Mother, also you are running around. Mother is too small, I think, for you to run around.
I love running around Mali. In fact, the first thing when I unpack my bag here, I already put my running shoes by the door, put the alarm for early tomorrow morning, and I will run the 5 kilometer loop around here.
Wonderful. Yeah. So, Nick, your story, as I said, is very, very inspirational. So, can you tell us a little bit about your that time when you were in this depression and the lowest point of your life?
Yeah.
How was it like?
Yeah, so at that time I had spent 10 years working my way up, as I said, and prior to that spent another 5 years working my way through university, getting the scholarship, topping the classes, always putting huge pressure on myself to deliver the best. And I remember, being looking back at it, both at university and in the corporate world, it was really the insecurities that drove me. I would call myself an anxious overachiever who constantly had to prove to himself and others that I was good enough for that. So I worked harder than the most and put in the effort. That eventually, though, changed when I reached the top, when I had everything I had worked so hard for, living in a 5-story house in Jakarta, having drivers, maids, tax-free salary with bonuses, all the allowances I could imagine. I even had a sport allowance. I even paid for my golf and my cycle and everything else. So on the outside, it looked perfect. But on the inside, I was keep questioning myself. Is this what I worked so hard for? Is it worth it all? And eventually then the conclusion I came to was that it wasn't worth it to work this hard and just sitting there feeling isolated. So with that though, I didn't talk to anyone about it. I was mainly internally I had this, but what I did was taking action. I resigned from the job, but really without having coaches, mentors involved in the conversation. And I also didn't have a new plan. I started to jump from project to project, taking a job here, failing at that, leaving, resigning, investing in some startups that all failed. And before I knew it, I ran out of cash. I ran out of finances. I started to cash in my pension plan. So with that, I was also then suddenly in a financial turmoil. And with that came a lot of anxieties and worries about the future. And I started to lose all kind of hope. And at that time, I started to isolate myself because I wasn't ready to explain to my friends, former colleagues, and business people what I was going through. And people started to question also when I gained a lot of weight. I gained about 30 kilos.
I've seen some of your pictures.
Yes. So that was the space I was in at the time. Yeah.
So, what was this incident you talked about your friend that really made you, hit you hard, I think, to take the next action, right?
Yes. So back in 2018, I came out of the depression and I was getting better. I finally spoke out openly about my challenges. Not in public yet, but I spoke up to my wife, Donna. I spoke up to a doctor. I got some support groups and so on that I joined. I got coached around this and I took ownership for my mistakes and I was ready to step forward. With that, though, I was not ready to tell the world yet. But in 2019, so 1 year after my recovery, I lost a friend to suicide. A friend of mine I worked with in Singapore. And as you rightly said, it changed everything. Because at that moment, I realized that the path I was on, the self-destructive path, the isolating path, not talking about my issues, my challenges, not owning up to my mistakes, that could have ended in the same way because I realized that I was getting really sick and mentally I was really bad. So I actually wrote my will, I wrote my testament, and I cleaned up my act in 2018 because I thought I was going to die. I wasn't suicidal. I didn't have the suicidal thoughts. I didn't make any plans for it. But I understood that if I continue down this, I'm going to die. And then I don't want to leave a mess behind. So I started to take those steps. And when I lost my friend, then that's really when it hit me that was the path that I was on. And that's when I decided to speak up about it openly. I remember calling my friend's brother as we had lost Simon to suicide in 2019 and asking how I could help. And he said, Nick, you have a good network. Talk about this. And I want you to shout it out loud because that's what Simon would have wanted. So that was his trigger to me by speaking about it. And that's when I thought, okay, well, I gone through some challenges. What I'm hearing here now is from my friend's brother that I should speak about this. And that's when I pressed the button. In fact, I set up my video, a camera, and I made a video and I shared about my story and I posted that in August 2019 on LinkedIn for the first time, telling the whole world about my story. What I didn't realize was what's going to happen that hour after that because that video went viral.
Yeah.
And that then everyone knew and there was no turning back.
Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that, but I think you rightly said this is what your friend also must have wanted, and his story has become now inspiration for many others actually to overcome these executive loneliness and other mental challenges. Talking about executive loneliness, you wrote a book on this subject, which is also being highlighted by WHO as one of the health crises around the world, actually loneliness. Uh, what was the message you wanted to give through the book?
Yeah, so the book was something that came about because in 2018, after my story went viral, and so many journalists was interviewing me. I was on TV, radio, there was newspaper articles and so on. And all the journalists said, this is a story that needs to get out there. Are you not writing a book about it? And people start suggesting writing a book. And that's when I thought, well, I should do that. And what I then did was that I rolled out a survey. I wanted to first find out, what's the state of senior executives? Was it only me who went through these kind of feelings of isolation, feeling of loneliness, feeling the huge pressures and burning out and crashing? So I rolled out a survey, and I did this in Southeast Asia and mainly in Singapore. And I was quite shocked with the findings. I found that about 33% of the executives were either at the point of being surveyed or in the recent years have been gone through something similar. So that means almost a third of people are going through this. And then the last question in the survey was a box they could tick if they were comfortable to be interviewed on it. And I was also quite surprised to see that actually there was a lot of executives who wanted to be interviewed on the topic, because I had also shared at this stage my story, so they felt quite safe to share their story with me. So then I started to interview all these executives, and what I realized now looking back at it is that actually they took this as an opportunity for themselves to release and speak up about their isolation and pressures.
Exactly. This is actually one of the topics which I also came across when I was actually researching for my book, which I'm writing at the moment, on retirement, or rather unretirables. So one of the issues with people who are at the later stages of their life is also considered as loneliness. So that is kind of exactly, actually, it is kind of pandemic now. The loneliness among the elderly is kind of pandemic. Did you come across any people who are already in the verge of retirement, or who are retired, who feel really lonely, and what were their stories like?
Yes, I did. I actually came across lonely people at all levels of the career. So it could be all kind of things that have happened. But what really stood out was that if someone was going through a difficult time at home, then it could be that they will bring in this also to the workplace, and therefore, or vice versa as well. So if someone has retired or is on the way to retirement, there's a lot of loss there. There's a loss of something that a part of themselves is a part of the identity of the person that they lost, or they know that they're going to lose it in the future. And there's a grief that takes place then. And if we don't discuss this with someone, if we are not open and honest about this, if we are keeping all these emotions internally and we don't talk to someone, then there can be major issues. So for someone who is, for example, a retired, they would probably need to have some coach or mentor who has been there before, maybe someone who retired a few years ago who can help them through that phase. It would also help if they would belong to perhaps a counseling group of other retirees who can discuss the thoughts and feelings that they're going through and get sympathy from one another. So that is what I came across, that it doesn't matter what you go through in life, but to find like-minded. If someone go through cancer, to find the people who've gone through that and talk to them is very important. If someone's gone through an alcohol issue, which I went through, then I found other people who had that alcohol issues before and solved it, and get some strength from them. So likewise for someone who's retiring, they would need their safe space as well.
I think one of the work you are also doing is, I came to know that you have been sober for last 6 years or so, and you also started a support group, right, for people who are recovering.
Yes, that's right. And what I found out, and it was a blessing that I had, looking back, it was a blessing that I had an alcohol issue and that I took ownership for it. I realized that this has become a problem. It's a poison, and I don't want it to be part of my life. So I then start to ask around, look around, how can I find a community of people who've gone through this before, who are now sober, who don't drink alcohol but have had issues. And I found that there was a wonderful global support group there, part of the 12-step programs. And as I got the help there, I then asked, what about if someone have other problems? What about if someone have gambling problems, social media addiction, food addiction, sugar addiction, or any kind of addictions that are about? And I've also found out that there's some of recovery programs all around the world for all these addictions, meetings online, meeting in person. But then I said, what about if the people don't have any addiction? What about if they don't admit it? What should they do then? Then I couldn't find something. So that's what I founded. So the group I have is a men's group, and we are about 21 men now in this group. And we meet once a week online where we discuss life and the challenges we are going through. I mean, if you imagine 21 men meeting, there will be someone who perhaps have just lost a job, someone who lost someone in the family perhaps, or who's gone through some injuries or sickness. And therefore we are there for one another, and we talk about our feelings and challenges that we are going through.
I think that is something with us men, right? We don't share or express as much as women, I think, most of the time. It is really important that we have this kind of support network, right? And connection with others is so important. I think this is one of the areas in your talks and the speakers you always highlight how important this is for people who are, because I'm thinking even from for my research now. Uh, People who are, when they are working, they at least have this work is not only about a job, right? It is also a social network. They work 9 to 5 and they go, they have the friends or colleagues whom they hang around with during the most of the daytime. But suddenly when they are at the retirement age or when they want to retire, they don't have, they lose that support group, right? So how important that is actually to people to find this um, support networks much before early stages of their life, much before retirement, so that even through the retirement or later part of the years, they can actually rely on this.
Yes, it's very, very important, and you're quite right that women tend to be a bit more open, a bit more vulnerable. They also tend to have a few close friends who they are open with. We men are not so good at that. And I say that looking back at myself, I had great friends. We would go to the bar and watch sport, perhaps on TV, or maybe we go and play golf, or we do some activities, and we have a great time together, but we wouldn't discuss our feelings. We wouldn't discuss the big challenges that are happening in our lives because we didn't want to bother the other person. And if every one of us are thinking like that, then we're never going to get to know each other deeply. So those were the issues. So what I found now is that indeed we need to be setting up these safe infrastructures for us men, where we have some men to lead by example. And the group I lead, I lead by example. I take normally every week we discuss a different topic, and I take normally the first 5-10 minutes to be open, and I share related to the topic what is happening in my life. Perhaps it's about the relationship with a wife, or maybe it's about habits or sleep or something like that. And I would share something related to that and be open and honest about it, and then passing it to the next one. And then typically the next one is someone who's a bit comfortable. They share, and then there's someone else share, and then everyone step by step start to feel safer, and then they share also. And I talk
So
about
basically taking it out of their head, right?
yes, and I say that it's like any muscle we train. I call it the vulnerability muscle, that we need to practice this to feel safe and sharing.
Wonderful.
Mm.
Yeah. So you also do a lot of coaching, right? You are a master certified coach and also ICF certified coach. And through your coaching, you are helping people mostly with finding their purpose in life and things like that, right? And this resonates very much with which my topic, unretirable, because how I define unretirable is something along that line. How would you define unretirable person, for example?
Yes, I agree that it's very relatable work, and I would say that the world is changing, and the retireable age, as we discussed before, is changing and removing, and people will keep working and keeping active, perhaps not in a full-time job, but more as a consultant, mentor role, a coach, or something like that. And the purpose then is very important, and I talk a lot these days also on the purpose related to AI, because if you are working in a steady job for 20, 30 years and looking forward to retirement, then these days maybe you lose your job because they are scaling down the business, and then suddenly you are early retired. But that's your chance, and that's an opportunity then to find your purpose and redefine yourself, I believe. So it's an opportunity.
You very rightly said about AI. This is just changing in front of our eyes every day. Yesterday, I was listening to a podcast by Gary Vee, and he said so many jobs are getting replaced. Already, graphic designers are being replaced by AI, and I can resonate that very well with me because I am not a graphic designer myself. But now, with a prompt command, I can create. I am a creator now. I can be creative, which I thought I cannot do in my entire life because I was not good at drawing things even back at school. So, uh, do you have any particular framework or any formula or anything like that which you use during your coaching to actually people to identify their purpose?
Yes, I do, and I have been coached myself by John Mazzone, who was the coach of Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs was told by doctors that he only had a year to live when he got cancer, he panicked a little bit because he realized that he has built some wonderful businesses. He's a very creative guy, driven, but he had not been the best when it comes to relationships with people, and also his purpose related to that. So he was not ready to write his legacy. So that's when he called up John Mattone, and he wanted to do this deep job himself, which he did. And when I heard this story, I looked up John Mattone, and I got part of this program, and I spent a year through ITD World and doing the work with him. And therefore, I have all those tools from that learning experience, which is what I take through my coaching clients now. Yeah. And it starts by really mapping out who you were as a child and what did you love to do as a child. First, it's me and the coaching clients going deep, asking them, but then I give them the formulas and questions for them to have conversations with their parents, with close, if they have siblings, with close friends from childhood, and asking them what they like. I also ask them to look through photo albums and look for photo albums, look for signs of their happy place, and to talk about it. So we really go deep, and that's the job I did on myself, and that's how I came closer to know myself. And it's about bringing that little boy in myself back into me now and doing more of that. That's how we start a connection, and then it builds and builds and builds. So I typically spend it's a 3 months program I do for executives now to find a purpose, and it's a journey that is amazing.
Wonderful. Um, how would somebody know among your coaching clients also how somebody will know that they have come to realize their purpose?
Or you will feel this. You will catch it once you get it. And for some, it's very difficult, and it's some can take or it can take a lot of time, and it comes in bits and pieces. And it's a process. It's a progress. It's not something that it just comes instantly. In my case, for example, and where it came from was when I spoke to my mom. I spoke to my mom and asked her what I loved to do as a child, and she showed me photos from my childhood, and she said, when I saw you the happiest was when I was cycling. So she showed me a lot of photos on me from a young boy when you had, the three-wheelers and cycling, and I always had a big smile. And she said that, whenever you get cycling, I would get away and I could be gone for hours. And sometimes I have to jump in the car driving around looking for me because I was gone as a small boy. And as she shared those photos with me and as she shared those stories, I could start to remember them. And as I looked at the pictures, I started to remember the joy I had of cycling. And I then understood why I these days also really feel calm and feel at ease when I'm cycling. So what that made then was that I could double down on doing more cycling because that's obviously my happy place. And through that, I also understood why I get the most creative ideas when I cycle, why I feel so relaxed afterwards and comfortable. So, but everyone is different. It might be that for someone else, it could be fear that they'll find their zone when they fishing or something else. But then it's about doubling down on that.
Yeah. So that is that is the passion, right? So how one can differentiate their passion and the purpose? Sometimes like people get very passionate with something, but then they might not see that as their long term purpose.
Yeah, so the passion can be giving you clues towards, so your hobbies and so on can give you some clues towards your purpose. And it just starts that inward journey where you open up yourself for new ideas and reflections, and then it goes on. And other questions a bit further down is to check in with previous colleagues by WhatsApp, phone calls, video calls, meeting some for lunch. And I prep them with some questions to ask and to ask around everyone else, what are the skills that you believe that I can handle really well? What are my strengths? And normally, we would maybe just ask this to the closest people around us, but not going back to colleagues. So when I did this job, I went back to some children, some people who I had not seen since they were children for 30, 35 years.
Okay.
And I took the opportunity to say, look them up on Facebook, reconnecting, and saying we were studying together when we were 12 years of age. And I remember that we did this and that sport together. We played football together. I'm going to be in Sweden, Kalmar this summer, and I see you live there. Would you be open for catching up for a coffee? And they'd be surprised, they'd be happy. Of course, some would not. Some of the people I reached out to didn't even connect. Some just said hello, and then they ghosted me.
Yeah.
But there was some people who were very happy to do it. We met up and actually,
Because they had deep down, they had some connection from then that time even with you, right?
yes, and we reconnected. And as we did that, it was like time had been standing still. Here's someone I haven't seen since I was 12 years of age. But we start, when I share the story, that person starts, oh yeah, do you remember that? And I start to reconnect in my brain and remember the stories. And it was like just I was a 12-year-old again. And I got so much energy out of those connections.
It's so wonderful. Even that brings back memories from me. Even for me, I now even now we have like these WhatsApp groups or Viber groups for our classmates from junior school to high school. Even last 2 weeks back, I was in my hometown, and then I was catching up with some of my, because I was schooled in my home island, so I catch up with some of my classmates from grade 8, 9, and 10. So it's really, whenever we feel like children when we are around it. And I think this really resonates with, I used to listen to Simon Sinek a lot, and one of the topics which he talks now a lot about friendship. And one of the ways he's reframing finding why is actually he says, ask a friend, right? Why they think they are friends with you. So that way, actually, once you go deeper in that conversation, like you mentioned, you can really identify what is your purpose or what is your why, right?
Yes, and I want to add also, because one thing I also do when I do this job and going back to these connections is also to ask myself, is there some pain there? Especially if you look at the school photos and you remember, oh yes, I was part of a small group and we bullied that girl when I was 13 years of age. Then we have the chance to look up that person also and making an amend. Yes, to say sorry. Sending that
So important, right?
sending that connection to someone and say, I realize that we haven't spoken for many years and I'm just doing some deep work on myself now. And I want you to know that I'm ready to say sorry for what I did to you 30 years ago, whatever it is.
I think
And,
that's so sweet.
yeah,
And also, I think people will really appreciate, because if a lot of people, even though they don't show it in their 30s or 40s, they really take that with them, right, from the school time.
yes, and absolutely. And also ourselves, if we have done that for someone else, and the fact if you are remembering this 30 years later, then you have obviously done a good job trying to suppress it in your subconscious mind. But
Maybe
out
it's an
there,
opportunity to actually,
you can clean yourself and move forward, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Nick, coming back to your passion into Ironman and triathlon, uh, you have been. It's a really hard sport, right? I mean, very few people, even among athletes, take up this challenge, right?
Yes, and after my recovery journey, then as I was vulnerable and open, I thought, what about if this is how it worked on my burnout, my depression, and my alcohol issues? Imagine now, if from now on, everything I do, I have the same approach. So if I'm cycling, then I look up the best cycling coaches in the world. For my swimming, I look up the best swim coaches. I read everything I can on swimming, and I will become the best swimmer I can. For running, I will become relentless in working with people and asking them for tips and advice. Is no longer me doing it. So the things I'm interested in, I want to do it 100%, all of it. And that's the transformation that I went through. So then when it comes to the three sports, the swim, bike, run, we call it triathlon, I was starting to wonder, where are the best triathlon coaches in the world? Are there any triathlon camps? Where do the professionals go? Where do the best of the best go? Oh, and where are they in Asia? Because that's where I am. And I found, a couple of training camps in Asia. One happened to be in Phuket, Thailand. So I said to Donna, my wife, I said, I've been in touch with a triathlon camp in Phuket. I'm gonna go there for 3 weeks. She said, you crazy? Are you turning professional athlete now? You're almost 50. I said, no, don't worry. I will go there and I will train. And I went there and surrounded by world champions, professional athletes, all these young athletes, 17 to 20-year-old, training to compete and get into the Olympics, to Asian Games, the best swimmers in Asia were there. And I got all this energy and I felt like a teenager. I didn't think about my age. I trained as hard as I could. And I came back from those 3 weeks and I said to Donna, I said to myself, I want to live there. And she looked at me again thinking I'm crazy. I said, I'm serious. I want to live there. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
So we moved there. And since 2 years now, our base is Phuket, Thailand, and we live in an Ironman training camp.
Oh.
So I'm surrounded by the best of the best.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a famous saying which you becomes an average of 5 people you hang around with. I guess that is you are becoming one of them, right?
Yeah.
And from this experience of what is the lesson you can take and apply to the executives in the business world?
Yeah, I think the learning from this is, that we many times say yes to too many things and we spread ourselves thin to the point where we burn out and we don't have the focus. And I have an absolute laser focus. Since I done this, I have no space in my calendar to watch TV or watch news. We have not had a TV channel plugged in since March 2020. So over 5 years now, I not watch the news. I don't read the news. I don't have the time. Because if you want to do the sports I do and the work I do, then it's no time for that. So it's about getting the quality news, so in your segment where you're interested in, and double down and do that properly and service your community, join the clubs and association that matters, and really be selective. So that is my best advice and how I apply it to the business world as well.
Yeah, wonderful. So coming back to my topic of unretirable, when do you think you are going to retire?
Ha! I think I'm definitely unretirable. I really, really hope so. And that's something that I've been working towards from already for a few years now with the portfolio, right? So you mentioned I'm a coach, but I'm an individual coach, and just in coaching by itself, I could do executive coaching, the 360 service, and so on. I do the life coaching, which is the purpose, and so on. Then I do sobriety coaching, also for addictions, if anyone has some struggle. So, and then I do the team coaching. So that's just there. That's a bit of portfolio work. And then the speaking, the mentoring, the workshops, the keynotes, and then the consulting and so on as well, plus running as an entrepreneur the peer network membership. So that's my portfolio, and I hope.
Fantastic. This is how I think you are a real example of somebody who is unretirable. I want to showcase even in my book because this is how I also define unretirable is somebody who has found their purpose and live in their passion. So they don't have to retire for the rest of their life, and they can carry on doing that. This is a kind of very sweet spot to be in life, right? How does it affects your mental and well-being and overall fulfillment of your life?
Yeah, it's very important to me to do the things that we love to do as we find a purpose, and I think it's okay to jump around and make mistakes. It's okay to take the jobs. I started as a blue collar worker myself. I worked in construction painting. I've done those jobs for 5 years, plus during my school time, during the holidays and so on. So in total, almost 10 years, I did those jobs, working for hours, working long hours to earn some dollars. And that's an experience I take with you. And that means I value money, I value the work I do. But now to do something that is purposeful means everything to me. I'm selective on my time and the quality and the work I take, as opposed to the money I take. I come, for example, to the Maldives, for the fifth time. And let's be honest, the rates are higher in Singapore or somewhere else. If I wanted to just by the hour, I would just do keynotes and workshops there. But I love to come to Maldives, the beautiful people and the places. And so it's about quality of life as well.
Yes. And so many people have this something called purpose statement identified in. Do you have anything like that?
Yes, my purpose is to deliver and support holistic well-being. And
Wonderful. So I think we are coming towards end of our podcast. Is there any wisdom or anything which you have uh, hold on to in your life, which you like to share with our audience?
yes, I would love to share something. I was called a few months ago by one of my clients who I done some work with to give a keynote in front of 1,400 of their staff. There had been two incidents in this particular company, and a lot of the staff were in shock. There was gossips, there was rumors that people were really, really unwell. And sadly, at this time, whatever happened was there had been two suicides in the company, and people were very scared what's going to happen now. I came into the company to give a talk at the all hands meeting to the staff, and these were the words I said when I walked up. I said, we have to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. And what I meant with that we have to become comfortable with uncomfortable means that we need to have conversations about this. Because just ignoring it or pressing or talking around the back on this will not help. It will not find a solution. We need to really go deep and have conversations about what's gone wrong here, what's happening here, and break down those walls, those barriers, and become humans. And we connect at a much deeper level, at an emotional level, when we talk about our challenges, not just trying to show off and to show everyone how good we are, but also to be vulnerable and be a bit open about our shortcomings. So that was my message, and that's my message that I want to share with anyone who's listening. And it doesn't matter if it's in a family or if it's in a community or in a workplace, but it's about being able to talk about having these difficult, uncomfortable conversations as well. So.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nick. It's been really a wonderful chat with you today, and I hope to catch you up some other time.
Thank you for having me, and it's great to be back in Maldives. I'm here for 3 weeks this time, so I'm sure I'll see more.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we are going to catch up. And for my listeners, um, as Nick has mentioned, this is a very deep conversation we had today. I want to reiterate on the message which he gave at the end, that be comfortable with what is uncomfortable until we come back next time. Don't forget to be awesome. Thank you.